Do you think you can play with me? Brad growled, clenching his fists until the knuckles cracked. Do you think your quiet game will work here in Lincoln High? Emily slowly lifted her head, and something in her eyes made the crowd hold its breath. The cold glint that appeared in her gaze was nothing like fear. I'm not playing. Her voice sounded surprisingly calm. I was just hoping you wouldn't make me show you who I really am. 16-year-old Emily Harris had just moved to Maplewood, Ohio. Her family relocated from Detroit after her mother got a job at a local hospital, and for Emily, this was already the fourth move in the last 3 years. On the outside, nothing gave away anything special about her. An average height, slender girl with chestnut hair, tied back in a simple ponytail, wearing plain jeans and a nondescript sweatshirt. She tried to blend in with the crowd, not attract attention, and speak softly when teachers addressed her. But what no one knew could shock everyone in that school. Emily was the reigning state champion in Michigan for mixed martial arts among juniors. 4 years of intensive training at one of Detroit's best gyms had turned her into a formidable opponent even for adult fighters. Her signature left hook could break a rib, and her ground fighting technique thrilled her coaches. But at her mother's insistence, they agreed to keep this a secret in their new place. Let's start with a clean slate, dear, her mother pleaded. You know how people react when they find out about your abilities. Let's just be an ordinary family. Emily agreed, although something inside her protested. In Detroit, she was respected precisely because she never allowed herself to be bullied. But here in Maplewood, she was just the new girl. Trouble started on the very first day. During lunch, Emily was sitting alone at a table in the corner of the cafeteria when a tall, broad-shouldered guy with a buzz cut and a cocky look approached her. 2 friends followed him. One was short and wiry with perpetually squinted eyes. The other was taller with a cunning face and a cheeky grin. Hey, new girl, the leader said loudly, plopping down in the chair opposite of her. I'm Brad Thompson. This is my school, my rules. And these are my friends, Kyle and Jake. Emily looked up from her sandwich. Nice to meet you. I'm Emily. Emily, Brad stretched the name, tasting it. Where are you from? From Detroit. Detroit, Kyle laughed. So you're from the big city? You think you're better than us? I don't think that, Emily replied quietly, continuing to eat. And I think you do. Brad leaned closer to her. You see, babe, we have a simple system here. Newcomers need to show respect, especially those who come from big cities and think they're cooler than everyone else. Emily felt something tighten inside her. That tone, that arrogance, it was all painfully familiar. But she had promised her mom. I don't want to disturb anyone, she said, preparing to stand up. Where do you think you're going? Jake placed a hand on her shoulder, preventing her from getting up. The conversation isn't over. And what exactly do you want? Steel crept into Emily's voice, but the guys didn't notice. Just respect, Brad smirked. Let's say $5 a day for protection. You see, in a new school, anything can happen to a lonely girl. Emily slowly scanned their faces. In Brad's eyes was the confidence of a predator who knows the prey won't fight back. Kyle was grinning, anticipating the entertainment. Jake was just waiting for her to break. I need to think, she finally said. Of course, Brad generously allowed. You have until tomorrow. And Emily, he leaned in closer and his breath burned her face. Don't even think about complaining. The teachers love us here. My dad sponsors the school football team. When they left, Emily sat for a few more minutes, clenching her fist under the table. She could end it all right now. One precise strike, and Brad would spend the rest of the day in the nurse's office. But the promise she made to her mother held her back. After school, she walked home, contemplating the situation. $5 a day means $150 a month. Over the school year, it would add up to more than $1,000. And this is just the beginning. She knew people like Brad. If you show weakness now, it will only get worse later. That night, Emily couldn't fall asleep. She lay staring at the ceiling, recalling Brad's face, his self-assured smile, his brazen gaze, his tone of voice. In Detroit, she would have already dealt with this problem. There, everyone knew it was better not to mess with Emily Harris. But here, she was just the new girl, quiet and unremarkable, who didn't want any trouble. On Tuesday morning, the situation escalated. Emily had just entered the school building when Brad and his friends intercepted her at the stairs. So, have you thought it over? He asked without preamble. I'm not going to pay you, Emily said firmly. The smile slipped off Brad's face. What did you say? I said no. For a few seconds, they stared at each other. Then Brad laughed, but it was a cold and unpleasant laugh. You know what, babe? I was hoping you'd be reasonable, but since you want to play the heroine, he shrugged. Fine, let's play. What happened next turned into a real nightmare for Emily. Brad and his friends seemed to have declared war on her. Every break, they found a way to make her life miserable. During the first chemistry class, Kyle accidentally bumped into her, and all her notes scattered across the floor. As she gathered them, he stepped on her notebook with his dirty shoe. Oops, he smirked. Sorry. During the second break, Jake shoved her in the hallway so hard that she hit her shoulder against the wall. The pain was sharp, but Emily just gritted her teeth. Watch where you're going, he shouted as he walked past. In the cafeteria at lunch, the situation reached its peak. Emily was sitting at the same table as yesterday when Brad approached her again. This time, he wasn't alone. Half the football team was with him. Heard our new girl doesn't want to follow the traditions, he said loudly for everyone around to hear. Thinks she's too good for our rules. Conversations at nearby tables hushed. Everyone turned to see what was happening. Brad, please, Emily said quietly. I just want us to study normally. And I just want you to understand your place, he leaned closer to her. You see, when someone ignores my requests, it reflects poorly on my reputation. He took her plate of food and slowly tipped its contents onto her lap. Hot soup spilled onto her jeans, and pieces of vegetables fell to the floor. Oh! Brad feigned disappointment. What an awkward situation. The cafeteria erupted in laughter. Someone even started filming on their phone. Emily sat still, feeling the hot soup seep through her clothes. Inside her, a fury was growing, cold, controlled, but no less dangerous for that. What are you sitting there for? Brad continued to taunt. Clean up after yourself. Emily slowly stood up. Soup dripped from her jeans, leaving wet spots on the floor. Laughter still echoed around her, but she paid no attention. She was focused only on Brad. You made a big mistake, she said quietly, but her voice cut through the noise like a blade. What are you going to do? He laughed. Go complain to the principal? Call mommy? Emily didn't respond. She simply grabbed her backpack and left the cafeteria, leaving puddles of soup and sounds of laughter behind her. In the bathroom, she tried to wash out the stains, but it was futile. Her hands trembled not from fear, but from barely contained rage. 4 years of training had taught her to control her aggression, to channel it in the right direction. But now that control was hard to maintain. She pulled out her phone and dialed her former coach in Detroit. Master Johnson, it's Emily Harris. Emily, how's it going at the new school? Not very well. I have a problem with the local bullies. There was silence on the line. Master Johnson had known Emily since she first walked into the gym as a skinny 12-year-old girl who wanted to learn to defend herself after being beaten up by older students. What exactly is happening? He asked. Emily briefly explained the situation. When she finished, the coach sighed, Listen to me carefully, girl. I know your mom asked to keep your skills a secret, and that's wise, but there are times when secrets become dangerous. If you keep enduring, they will only get more vicious. The likes of this Brad are only stopped by strength. But remember, if you decide to act, do it smart. Not at school, not in front of witnesses, and don't cause serious harm. I remember your lessons. Good. And also, Emily, whatever happens, you protect yourself. That's your right. Emily spent the rest of the day in thought. By the end of classes, she made a decision. She would no longer endure. After school, she lingered in the library pretending to do homework. In reality, she was waiting for most of the students to disperse. She needed to talk to Brad alone. Around 4 o'clock, she left the building. The parking lot was almost empty, with only a few teachers and seniors' cars. She knew that Brad usually stayed after class. He had football practice. Emily walked to the sports building and peeked through the gym window. The practice was over and the players were heading to the locker rooms. She waited another half hour until she saw Brad leaving the building alone. Apparently, his friends had already left. Brad, she called out. He turned around and smirked when he saw her. Oh, look who's back. The soup girl, back for seconds. Emily stepped closer. They were alone in the empty parking lot. I need to talk to you. About what? Brad crossed his arms over his chest. Even alone, he felt confident. After all, what could a skinny girl do to him? About what happened today in the cafeteria. What's wrong with it? I thought it was pretty fun. For you, maybe, but not for me. Brad stepped forward, looming over her. At nearly 6'3", he towered over Emily by almost a head. Listen here, little girl. I tried to be nice to you, offered a simple solution. Pay and live peacefully. But you decided to play the hero. Now it's going to be hard. Tomorrow the whole school will know that the new girl from Detroit is a real loser. I'll tell everyone how you sat in a puddle of your own soup and couldn't do anything. I'll post the photo on social media. I think Soup Girl will go viral. Something changed in Emily's eyes. Brad noticed it but misinterpreted it. Oh, scared? Too late, babe. You should have thought earlier. You know, Brad, Emily said in an oddly calm voice, I have a proposal. What kind of proposal? You're not in a position to propose anything right now. One-on-one, right here, right now. If you win, I'll pay you not $5 a day, but 10, and I'll do whatever you say. And if you win, you leave me alone forever and apologize to the whole school for what happened today. Brad raised an eyebrow in surprise. Are you serious? You want to fight me? I want to end this once and for all. Girl, I've been playing football since I was 10. I'm coached by a former NFL player. I bench press 140 kilo, and you... He looked her up and down with disdain. You look like the wind could blow you away. Then you have nothing to fear, Emily replied. Something in her tone made Brad look at her more closely. Emily stood completely still, her arms hanging loosely by her sides, but there was a confidence in her posture that he hadn't noticed before. Okay, he finally said, but no rules, all's fair. Deal? They moved to the center of the parking lot. The asphalt was clean, with no cars around. The perfect place for a duel. Brad took off his sweatshirt, revealing his muscular body. Years of training in the gym had paid off. Broad shoulders, developed chest, strong arms. He knew he looked imposing. Emily only took off her jacket, remaining in a simple t-shirt. Next to Brad, she seemed even more fragile. Last chance to back out, he offered with a smirk. Thanks, but no. Your funeral. Brad didn't hold back. He lunged forward, intending to take Emily down with the first blow. His fist was flying straight at her face with such force that it could have broken her nose. What happened next completely turned his understanding of reality upside down. Emily didn't even try to dodge. Instead, she took a small step to the left, allowing the punch to sail past her head while simultaneously raising her right arm and blocking the attack with her forearm. The movement was so quick and precise that Brad didn't have time to comprehend what was happening. And then Emily struck back. Her left hand shot forward like a piston, aiming directly at his solar plexus. The punch was short but incredibly powerful. All 4 years of training, thousands of hours of technique practice, all her hidden strength concentrated in that single movement. Emily's fist slammed into Brad right below the sternum. The guy doubled over, gasping for air. His diaphragm spasmed and his lungs refused to work. He tried to take a breath but couldn't. Panic-driven attempts to breathe made him drop to his knees. What? How? He wheezed, still not understanding what had happened. Emily stood over him, completely calm. There was not a hint of fatigue in her movements. The first rule of fighting, she said quietly, is to never underestimate your opponent. Brad tried to get up, but his legs wouldn't obey. The blow to the solar plexus had been delivered with surgical precision, strong enough to paralyze but not cause serious harm. Do you box? No, he managed to squeeze out. Not boxing, Jared Bush. Emily crouched down next to him so their faces were level. Mixed martial arts, 4 years of intensive training, junior state champion of Michigan, 23 fights, 21 wins. Brad's eyes widened in horror. But you know what's the most interesting part? I didn't even use a tenth of my abilities. That punch at full strength would have broken your ribs and reached your spine. She stood up and took a few steps back. I moved here hoping to start a normal life. I got tired of everyone being afraid of me. My mom asked me to hide my skills, and I agreed. I wanted to be an ordinary girl. Brad finally managed to breathe normally and slowly got to his feet. He held his stomach and looked at Emily with completely different eyes. But you didn't give me that chance. Emily's voice grew colder. You decided I was an easy target. You were wrong. Listen, I didn't know, Brad started. Of course you didn't know. And now you have a choice. Emily stepped closer to him. Despite the height difference, Brad now felt small and vulnerable. Either you fulfill the terms of our agreement, leave me alone and apologize to the school, or, she shrugged, or tomorrow I'll show everyone what I'm really capable of, in front of witnesses, with a video recording. What do you think your football team friends will say when they find out their captain was taken down by a girl half a head shorter in 30 seconds? Brad realized he was trapped. His reputation, his status in school, everything he valued was hanging by a thread. Okay, he said hoarsely. Okay, I agree. Smart boy. Emily picked up her jacket and headed toward the parking lot exit. And one more thing, Brad, she turned back. If you or your friends even look sideways at me or any other student in this school, I'll find out. And then our conversation will be very different. She left, leaving Brad alone in the empty parking lot. The guy stood there, holding his stomach, unable to believe what had just happened. Just half an hour ago, he was the king of the school, and now? The next morning, the whole school was in shock. Brad Thompson, the terror of the lower grades and an undisputed authority among the upperclassmen, approached Emily right in the hallway in front of everyone and loudly apologized for yesterday's incident in the cafeteria. I'm sorry, Emily, he said, and there wasn't a hint of sarcasm in his voice. What I did yesterday was wrong. I was a complete idiot. Students stood with their mouths agape. No one could believe what was happening. Brad Thompson was apologizing to the new girl. Thank you, Brad. Accepted, Emily replied calmly. From that day on, the atmosphere at school changed dramatically. Brad and his friends not only left Emily alone, but they seemed to become her invisible protectors. When any of the younger students tried to bully others, a single glance from Brad was enough to send the thug retreating. But the most surprising thing happened a week later. A group of girls approached Emily, led by Jessica Martin, one of the most popular students in the school. Emily, Jessica began uncertainly, there are rumors that you really know how to fight. Why are you asking? The thing is, we have a problem. There are boys from another school who keep bothering us after classes. The teachers can't do anything. It happens off school grounds. And we can't tell our parents. They would just forbid us from hanging out. Emily looked closely at the girls. Fear and desperation were evident in their eyes. Tell me more. It turned out that a group of high school boys from the neighboring Westside School regularly lurked around the Lincoln High girls at the bus stop. They didn't cause physical harm, but their harassment was becoming increasingly brazen. Yesterday, one of them tried to grab Jessica's hand, and when she broke free, he threatened, "Next time you won't get away." How many of them are there? Emily asked. Yes, you're old big, around 17, 18 years old. And you? There are 4 of us. We usually go together. Emily thought for a moment. 5 against 1, not the best odds even for her. But the girls needed help, and the teachers and parents really couldn't do much in this situation. Okay, she finally said. Go as usual after school today. I'll be nearby. What will you do? We'll see how it goes. At 3:45, Emily took her position at the bus stop. She sat on a bench pretending to read a book, but was actually watching the situation closely. Jessica and her friends arrived a few minutes later and stood a little way off, nervously glancing at each other. The Westside boys showed up right on schedule. 5 big teenagers in sportswear, with cocky faces and rough manners. Their leader, a tall blonde with a tattoo on his neck, immediately approached the girls. Oh, look who it is, our favorite princesses from Lincoln. Leave us alone, Travis, Jessica tried to sound brave. Are we bothering you? We're just talking, Travis sneered. By the way, you ran away too fast yesterday. I didn't get to know you properly. He reached out towards Jessica's face, clearly intending to touch her cheek. The girl flinched, but one of his friends stepped in behind her, cutting off her escape route. Don't be scared, beautiful. I don't bite. At that moment, Emily intervened. Excuse me, she said, approaching the group. Could you step aside? The bus will be here soon and you're blocking the way. Travis turned around and gave her a dismissive look. And who are you? I study at Lincoln and these girls are my friends. Got it, he scoffed. So why don't you get lost while we're talking to our girlfriends? I'm afraid that's not going to happen. You see, they don't want to talk to you. Travis took a step towards Emily. At nearly 2 meters tall, he made her look tiny next to him. Listen, shrimp, don't stick your nose in other people's business, or you'll get it. What exactly will I get? Emily asked calmly. The other boys burst out laughing. Clearly, they found it amusing that the fragile girl wasn't afraid of their leader. You know what? Travis turned to his friends. I like this little one. She's got some guts. Maybe we should take her with us. One of the guys, a stocky brunette with gold teeth, approached Emily from behind. Good idea, Trev. It's been a while since we had something fresh. He tried to grab Emily by the shoulders. That was his mistake. Emily didn't even turn around. She simply swung her left elbow back sharply, aiming for the attacker's solar plexus. The blow was short but powerful. The guy doubled over, gasping for breath, and fell to his knees. What the? Travis started, but didn't get to finish. Emily turned to face him, and something in her eyes made him fall silent. It was the gaze of a predator, cold, calculating, utterly fearless. You have 2 minutes to get out of here, she said quietly. I won't warn you again. Travis couldn't believe what was happening. Some girl, barely 5'3", was threatening him and his friends. Have you lost your mind? He barked. I could take you out with one hand. He didn't finish. Emily moved so quickly that he didn't even have time to react. One moment she was 2 meters away, and the next her fist slammed into his liver with such force that Travis felt his insides clench into a knot. He doubled over, gasping for air, and immediately received a second knee to the face. The cartilage in his nose cracked. Blood flowed from his nostrils. Travis fell onto his back, trying not to lose consciousness. The entire attack took no more than 3 seconds. The other 3 guys stood in shock. Their leader, whom they considered invulnerable, was lying on the asphalt in a pool of his own blood. Who's next? Is it? Emily asked, turning to them. No one moved. They had seen what happened to Travis and understood. This girl was not joking. Wise decision, Emily nodded. Now take your friend and leave. And if I see any of you near the girls from our school again, the conversation will be very different. The guys lifted the groaning Travis and hurried away. The one she hit first was still on his knees, clutching his stomach. You too, Emily said to him. Get lost. When the bullies disappeared from sight, Jessica and her friends approached Emily. Their eyes were filled with admiration and gratitude. That was incredible, Jessica gasped. How do you do that? Long story, Emily shrugged. The main thing is that they won't bother you anymore. What if they come back? They won't. Guys like Travis only understand strength. Today he got a lesson he won't forget. The bus had just arrived at the stop. The girls got on, still discussing what had happened. Emily stayed to wait for the next one. When she finally got home, her mother was already preparing dinner. How was school? Sarah asked as usual. Better, Emily replied. Much better. Her mother looked closely at her daughter. Something had changed in her over the past few days. Emily had become more confident, calmer. The tension that had been evident in her movements since the first day at the new school had disappeared. Have you made friends with your classmates? Yeah, it turns out there are some pretty good kids here. I'm glad to hear that. Emily went up to her room. She sat down at her desk and opened her textbook, but her thoughts were far from her homework. Today had completely changed her life at the new school. No longer did she have to hide, pretend to be weak and defenseless. She could finally be herself. The next day, everyone at school knew about the incident at the bus stop. The story grew more detailed with each retelling, but the essence remained unchanged. The new girl from Detroit had taken down 5 seniors from Westside. Students from different classes approached Emily. Some just wanted to get to know her. Others asked for advice on how to stand up for themselves. Girls asked if she could hold a few self-defense lessons. Of course, Emily agreed. I think it will be useful. She arranged with the school wrestling coach to use the gym after classes. Within a week, she had a group of 20 people, mostly girls, but a few boys as well. Emily taught them the basics of self-defense, how to hold their hands properly, where to aim when attacking, how to break free from a hold. She explained that the most important thing in a fight is not strength, but technique and the ability to control the situation. Remember, she told her students, the best fight is the one you manage to avoid. But if a fight is unavoidable, hit first, hit hard, and finish quickly. The classes became popular not only among students, but also among teachers. The school principal, Mr. Anderson, even suggested making the self-defense course an official part of the physical education program. Emily Pau, he said, calling her into his office. What you're doing is very important. In our time, children need to know how to defend themselves. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. I spoke with your mother. She told me about your achievements in Detroit. Why have you been hiding your abilities? Emily pondered. I thought it would be easier this way, that I could live a normal life. And how is that working out for you? You know what I've realized? Hiding who you really are isn't living. It's merely existing. Real life begins when you stop being afraid to be yourself. The principal smiled. Wise words for a 16-year-old girl. I had to grow up fast. A month after the incident with the West Side Guys, another event occurred that solidified Emily's reputation at school. Representatives from a major mixed martial arts federation came to town to hold demonstrations and scout for talented young fighters. The event took place at the local sports center, and many students from Lincoln High came to watch. Emily hadn't planned to participate. She came just as a spectator, along with Jessica and other friends. But when the organizers announced an open ring for anyone who wanted to step in, the crowd of students began chanting her name. Emily! 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 The Federation representative, former professional fighter Mike Rothner, noticed the commotion. What's going on? He asked. The kids want one of the students to get in the ring, someone from the organizers explained. They say she's a state champion. Interesting. How old is she? 16. Rothner frowned. Too young for a serious match, but we can arrange a demonstration sparring session with one of our girls. He approached the crowd of students. Where's your champion? Jessica nudged Emily forward. Here she is. Rothner looked Emily over. A petite, slender girl in jeans and a simple t-shirt, not at all resembling a fighter. Are you really a state champion? I was in Michigan. In what weight class? 57 OAM. All right. We have a girl about your weight. Do you just want to have a light sparring session without head strikes, in protective gear? Emily looked at her classmates. Their eyes sparkled with excitement and anticipation. They believed in her, and she couldn't let them down. Okay. A few minutes later, Emily stood in the center of the ring, wearing a protective helmet and gloves. Her opponent was 20-year-old Kelly Rouse, a budding professional athlete with 4 amateur fights under her belt. Don't worry, kid, Kelly said during the warm-up. It's just a demonstration spar. Emily simply nodded. She felt at home, the smell of sweat and leather, the bright lights of the spotlights, the noise of the crowd. All of it was familiar to her since childhood. The referees signaled to start. Kelly began cautiously studying her opponent. She threw a few light jabs, checking Emily's reaction. Emily calmly dodged or blocked the strikes, taking her time before going on the offensive. Not bad defense, Kelly thought, deciding to ramp it up. She executed a combination of 3 strikes, a left jab, a right cross, and a kick to the body. The technique was flawless, the speed high, but Emily was ready for this. She dodged the first 2 strikes and caught Kelly's leg, executing a sweep. Kelly lost her balance and fell onto her back. Emily immediately followed her down, transitioning the fight to the ground. On the mat, Kelly was strong, but Emily proved to be stronger. After a few quick transitions, she was already controlling the position, locking her opponent in a chokehold. Kelly tried to break free, but the grip was applied technically and with the right amount of force. She was forced to tap the mat, signaling her submission. The gym erupted in applause. The Lincoln High students screamed and whistled, unable to believe their eyes. Their classmate had just defeated a professional athlete. Mike Rothner approached the ring with a surprised expression on his face. Where have you trained? He asked Emily. In Detroit, in Master Johnson's hall. Jones, I know him. He's a great coach. Rothner pondered. Listen, wouldn't you like to seriously pursue a career? You have all the qualities for great achievements. Emily looked at her classmates, at their excited faces, at her mother standing in the crowd with a proud smile. Thank you for the offer, she said. But for now, I just want to be a student. I have more important things to do here. After that demonstration, Emily's fame spread far beyond the school. She was featured in the local newspaper and had a segment on regional television. But for Emily, that wasn't the main thing. The main thing was that she had finally found her place in life. She was no longer just the new girl trying to fit in. She had become a leader whom others looked up to. Over 100 people were attending her self-defense classes. The girls in her class became more confident, and the boys began to treat her with genuine respect. Even Brad Thompson had changed. He stopped being the school bully and started helping younger students. One day, he even approached Emily after class. You know, he said hesitantly, I wanted to say thank you. For what? For stopping me back then, I was a real jerk. If you hadn't put me in my place, I could have gotten even worse." Emily smiled. "We all make mistakes, Brad. The important thing is to learn from them. I'm learning, and also, if you ever need help, you can count on me." This was a turning point not only for Brad, but for the entire school. The atmosphere changed dramatically. Bullying disappeared and harassment of newcomers ceased. Students began to help each other instead of looking for the weak. But the real test of strength awaited ahead. At the beginning of November, news came to the school that shocked everyone. Travis Miller, the very bully whom Emily had beaten at the bus stop, had been arrested for assaulting a schoolgirl from another district. This time he had gone too far, and now he faced real prison time. But Travis had an influential family. His father, a wealthy businessman, hired the best lawyers and began looking for ways to clear his son's charges. One of the strategies was to accuse Emily of provoking that October incident. 3 months after Travis's arrest, his lawyers filed a counterclaim. They argued that Emily's attack on their client had provoked him into further aggressive actions. They demanded that she be held accountable as an accomplice. The case received widespread attention. Local media split into two camps. Some supported Emily, calling her a heroine, while others criticized her for excessive violence. "Can a 16-year-old girl be that dangerous?" One newspaper wrote. "Self-defense or assault? Where is the line?" Questioned a television channel. Emily found herself at the center of a scandal. For several days, journalists came to their home, but soon the hype died down. Her mother was worried, but held her ground. "Maybe we should leave," Sarah suggested one evening. "Start fresh somewhere else?" "No," Emily said firmly. "I'm not going anywhere. I haven't done anything wrong." "But this trial will reveal the truth, and the truth is on our side." The court hearing was scheduled for 2 months later. Travis's lawyers tried to portray Emily as an aggressive girl with mental issues who used her skills to attack innocent people. But they overlooked one thing: Emily had witnesses. On the day of the trial, the courtroom was packed. Students from Lincoln High, teachers, and parents came. Jessica and her friends sat in the front row, showing their support. Travis's lawyer began with an emotional speech about how his underage client had become a victim of uncontrolled aggression. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," he said, "before you is a case of how a typical teenage acquaintance turned into a brutal beating. My client was merely trying to get to know the girls, as all boys his age do, but the accused—" "Objection," interrupted Emily's lawyer. "Mr. Miller is not the accused in this trial." "Noted, continue, but watch your wording." Travis's lawyer continued, trying to present his client as an innocent victim. But when it came to witness testimonies, the picture began to clarify. The first to take the stand was Jessica Martin. "Tell the court what happened in that day at the bus stop," the prosecutor asked. "Travis Miller and his friends had been bothering us for several weeks," Jessica began in a trembling voice. "They said inappropriate things, tried to touch us. That day, Travis tried to grab my face, and when I pulled away, his friend stood behind me, so I couldn't run away." "And what happened next?" "Then Emily intervened. She asked them to leave us alone, but they started threatening her instead." "Who attacked first?" "One of Travis's friends tried to grab Emily from behind. She defended herself." Travis's lawyer tried to discredit Jessica's testimony, but she stood firm. She was followed by other witnesses. The other girls, several random passers-by who saw the incident. All testimonies converged on one point: Emily acted in self-defense and in defense of others. But the most powerful moment came from Emily herself. "Miss Harris," the prosecutor addressed her, "tell the court about your sports background." Emily stood up, straightened her shoulders, and began to speak. She talked about how she started practicing martial arts after becoming a victim of school bullies, about years of training, about victories in competitions, about how sports taught her not only to fight, but also to control aggression. "My coach always said," she continued, "true strength lies not in being able to inflict pain, but in knowing when to stop. That day at the bus stop, I could have seriously hurt those guys, but I used the minimum force necessary to stop them." "And what did you feel at that moment?" "Responsibility, for the girls they were trying to hurt, for myself, to show them that this behavior is unacceptable." Travis's lawyer attempted an aggressive cross-examination, but Emily answered calmly and honestly to all questions. She didn't try to justify herself or downplay what happened. "Do you admit that you hit my client?" "Yes, I admit it." And that it was a strong hit, strong enough to stop him. But didn't you think you could seriously injure him? I fully controlled the force of the strike. My coach taught me to gauge the impact depending on the situation. But you could have just run away. Emily looked at the lawyer with a long gaze. And what were those girls supposed to do? Run away too? For how long? Someone had to stop your clients, and I did. The courtroom erupted in applause, but the judge quickly called for order. The closing arguments were a formality. The prosecutor convincingly proved that Emily acted within the law of self-defense. The jury deliberated for only 20 minutes. The verdict was unanimous. Not guilty on all counts. When the judge read the decision, the room exploded with applause. Emily hugged her mother, who was crying with relief and pride. "Thank you for believing in me," Emily said to her classmates, who stayed to support her until the end. "We always believed in you," Jessica replied. "You taught us the most important thing, not to be afraid to be strong." After the trial, life began to return to normal. The media lost interest in the story. Reporters stopped besieging their home. But the changes brought about by Emily remained. Her self-defense courses became an official part of the school curriculum. The administration allocated a separate hall and equipment. Professional instructors joined the classes, but Emily remained the head coach. She taught not only the technique of fighting, but also the psychology of self-defense. How to recognize a dangerous situation, how to avoid conflict, how to help others without putting oneself at risk. Remember, she told her students, strength is not just about physical skills. True strength is self-confidence, the ability to stand up for what is right, the readiness to protect the weak. Her words resonated not only with school children, but also with adults. Parents of students, teachers, and just local residents began to attend the courses. Emily became a symbol of the idea that even the most ordinary person can change the world around them. But the most important change happened within herself. Emily no longer tried to hide her true nature. She realized that self-acceptance is the first step toward making the world a better place. One evening, as she was returning home after another training session, an unfamiliar man approached her. Emily instantly tensed, ready to defend herself. "Emily Harris?" he asked roughly. "Are you the one who mutilated my son?" Emily immediately recognized who he was. Before her stood the father of Travis Miller, the very bully who was now serving time in a juvenile facility. "Mr. Miller," Emily said, slowly backing toward the lit part of the street, "your son is responsible for what happened to him." "My son was a good boy until he met you." He took a step toward her, fists clenched. Emily assessed the situation. The man was large, nearly 2 meters tall, clearly weighing over 100 kilograms, but his coordination was impaired due to alcohol. "Calm down," she said firmly. "Leave before I call the police." "The police?" he laughed. "First, I'll show you what it's like to be weak." He lunged at her, trying to grab her by the shoulders. Emily was ready for the attack. She dodged his clumsy attempt to grab her and delivered a quick strike to the solar plexus. Alcohol had done its job. The man's coordination was compromised, and he couldn't react properly. Miller doubled over, gasping for air, and tried to lunge at Emily again. This time, she was forced to take more decisive measures. One precise punch to the jaw, and the man collapsed onto the sidewalk, losing consciousness. Emily immediately took out her phone and called the police. Within minutes, a patrol and an ambulance arrived. When the police and paramedics arrived, Miller had not yet regained consciousness. The doctors diagnosed a mild concussion, but there were no serious injuries. "Self-defense again?" asked the detective, who already knew Emily from a previous case. "He attacked me on the street. I was defending myself." "I see. Are there any witnesses?" Emily looked around. Fortunately, the incident occurred near a store, and the surveillance camera captured everything. The case didn't even go to court. The video clearly showed who the aggressor was. Miller Sr. was held accountable for assault and threats, and Emily received official confirmation of the legality of her self-defense. But this incident made Emily think deeply about many things. She realized that her reputation could attract attention not only from admiring fans, but also from those who would want to test her strength or take revenge for past defeats. "Mom," she said one evening at dinner, "I think we need to have a serious talk." "About what, dear? About what happened today and what might happen in the future?" Emily shared her thoughts and concerns with her mother. about how her fame could become a problem, not only for herself, but also for her loved ones. "Are you scared?" Sarah asked. "No, I'm not scared, but I worry about you, about my students, about my classmates. What if next time it's not just one drunk man, but a whole group?" Her mother was silent for a long time, contemplating her daughter's words. "You know what, Em? I'm proud of you. Not just for being able to fight, but for thinking about other people, taking responsibility for their safety. But what should I do?" "Do what you've always done. Be yourself, protect those who need protection, and don't let fear control your life." The next day at school, everyone was talking about the incident from yesterday. The story quickly spread throughout the city. Everyone knew that Emily had defended herself against an attack once again. Students from different classes approached Emily, offering their support. The local newspaper wrote an article about the issue of school safety, using Emily's case as an example. But the main thing was that the incident did not break her. On the contrary, it only strengthened her determination to continue helping other children. The self-defense program spread to other schools in the district. Emily regularly traveled to conduct workshops, sharing her experiences with fellow trainers. And most importantly, the children themselves changed. They became braver, more confident, ready to stand up for themselves and for others. Cases of school bullying decreased significantly. "Do you know what your biggest victory is?" Jessica asked one day. "What is it?" "You showed all of us that you can be strong and kind at the same time. That strength is not about hurting the weak, but about protecting them." In her senior year, Emily became the president of the student council. She used this position to finally eradicate the remnants of the school hierarchy based on strength and intimidation. An honor court was established, a body that addressed conflicts between students. Instead of punishments, they practiced reconciliation and mutual understanding. "The goal is not to punish the bully," Emily explained the principles of the court, "but to help them understand why their behavior is wrong and to change." The system worked. The number of serious conflicts in the school dropped to almost zero. Graduation day arrived. Emily stood on the stage of the auditorium in a gown and cap, holding her diploma. She was the top student not only in grades but also in community service. "Dear graduates," she began her speech, "4 years ago, I came to this school as a frightened girl who wanted to go unnoticed. I thought that if I was quiet and inconspicuous, I would avoid problems." The audience listened attentively. "But life taught me otherwise. Problems find us on their own, regardless of whether we hide or not. And then we have a choice, to give up or to fight." Emily paused, looking at the familiar faces in the audience. "I chose to fight, not because I like to fight, but because there were people beside me who needed protection. And you know what? It changed not only their lives, it changed mine." Applause interrupted her speech, but she continued. "Today we are all going our separate ways, some to college, some to work, some to the military. But remember the most important thing. Wherever you find yourselves, be yourselves, don't hide your talents, don't be afraid to be strong. The world needs people who are ready to stand up for truth and justice." She raised her diploma above her head. "And one more thing, if you ever see someone being bullied, don't just walk by. Reach out a helping hand. Be the change you want to see in the world." The audience erupted into a standing ovation. She was honored not only by her classmates, but also by teachers and parents. After the ceremony, Brad Thompson, the former school bully, approached Emily, now planning to enroll in university to become a social worker. "Emily," he said, "I wanted to say thank you once again." "For what?" "For not breaking my nose back then," he smirked, "even though I deserved it. But most importantly, for showing me another way. If it weren't for that lesson, I could have become a completely different person." "We all make mistakes, Brad. The important thing is to learn from them." "You know what I think? Maybe everything happens for a reason. Maybe you came to our school just when we needed you." Emily pondered his words. Perhaps he was right. Perhaps her move to Maplewood was not a coincidence. That evening at home, Emily sat in her room sorting through her things. Tomorrow she was leaving for Chicago, for university. A new life, new challenges, new opportunities. But she was no longer afraid of change. 4 years at Lincoln High had taught her the most important lesson. It doesn't matter where you are and what you face. What matters is who you are inside. The mother peeked into the room. "How are you, dear?" Good, thinking about the future. And what do you see? Emily smiled. A lot of work, many children who need help, many opportunities to make the world better. I'm proud of you, and I'm proud that you're my mom. Thank you for always supporting me. They hugged, and in that embrace was all the love and gratitude that could not be expressed in words. The next morning, half the town came to see Emily off at the station. Her students, classmates, teachers, and simply residents of Maplewood, whose lives she had changed, gathered. "Don't forget us," Jessica pleaded through tears. "How could I forget?" Emily replied. "You will all remain in my heart forever." The train started moving. Emily looked out the window at the city disappearing into the distance, which had become a true home for her. Here she found herself. Here she understood her purpose. But a new life awaited ahead, and Emily was ready for it. At university, she studied psychology, specializing in working with teenagers. At the same time, she coached the university martial arts team and led self-defense courses for female students. The story of the girl who changed an entire school became a legend. Books were written about her, documentaries were made. But for Emily herself, it was just the beginning. After graduating from university, she worked for several years as a psychologist in youth centers, gaining experience. Only then, at the age of 26, did she open her center for training young leaders. She started small, a small office, a dozen students. But gradually the center grew. Teenagers from neighboring towns began to come, those who faced bullying in schools, who were afraid to stand up for themselves, who wanted to change the world around them. "Remember," Emily told her students, "each of you is born for something great. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. Be yourself, fight for justice, and never give up." Her center gradually became one of the most recognized in the region. Some graduates returned to their towns and created similar programs there. Slowly but surely, a network of like-minded individuals was forming. After a few years, Emily became a recognized expert in combating school bullying in her state. She was invited to speak at conferences, consult school districts, and participate in the development of educational programs. But she never forgot her roots. Every year on her graduation day, she would come back to Maplewood, meet with old friends, and conduct workshops for new generations of students. "You know what's the most amazing thing?" 30-year-old Emily said in an interview with a local newspaper. "I thought that moving to a small town was the end. It turned out to be the beginning. That's where I realized who I wanted to become." Years went by. Emily became not just a successful psychologist and coach in her region. She became a role model for thousands of children, a symbol that anyone can change their life and the lives of those around them if they find the courage to be themselves. And in the small town of Maplewood, in Lincoln High School, a photograph of a slender girl with determined eyes hung in the gym. Underneath the photograph was a plaque. "Emily Harris, class of 2013. She taught us that true strength lies in the willingness to protect others." And each new generation of students, looking at this photograph, learned the story of how one girl changed an entire world and understood the main thing. Each of us can become a hero. We just need to find the courage to take the first step. The story ended where it was meant to end, not with loud fanfare, but with quiet confidence that the world became a little better thanks to one person who found the strength not to hide, but to shine.